All right, boys and girls, moms and dads, we have some breaking news this evening. So just a little while ago, we got a decision handed down in Beavis versus the city of Naperville. This is the law weapons case that began challenging the city of Naperville's ban on the sale of magazine-fed semi-auto rifles. Todd Vandermeide here for Freedom Steel, former NRA contract lobbyist, Illinois gun law guru, and it is not a good decision for gun owners of the state of Illinois. The judge, Virginia Kendall, if you don't remember that name, this is the same judge that ruled against gun owners in not one, but two gun cases, Ezell 1 and Ezell 2. And if being overturned twice by the Court of Appeals has taught Judge Kendall nothing, she still gets that I think she's a Clinton appointee, and she is going to use every loophole, any gap, anything she can. And if you've been following what's been going on and how we've been reporting on this channel about about the arguments the anti-gunners are making, well, she bought them hook, line, and sinker. So this video, we'll see if I have to chop it up into a couple of pieces, but this is definitely going to be a three fingers review of what's going on here. And she wastes no time getting into this. So in the beginning here, and depending, I'm trying to get this out quickly so everybody knows about it. So I may not have the whole thing, but I may not have all the inserts that I normally do. But mass shootings have become common in America. They have occurred in cities from San Bernardino, California to Newtown, Connecticut, and recently Highland Park, Illinois. In response, several states, California, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, and along with many local municipalities have enacted bans on the possession, sale, and manufacture of assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. Illinois and the city of Naperville decided to put similar restrictions in place. There you have it. Right out of the box, she is interest balancing the perceptions of the community at large against what the court said in New York. They just right out of the box. So we have to get down to page 11 of this 33-page opinion before we get to the real meat and potatoes of things. And let me go through this, and there's some doozies in here. So as we duck and weave through this, the judge asked, the question after Bruin is whether Friedman is still good law. And she goes on in a footnote, recognizing Friedman was no longer good law, this court ordered supplemental briefing on the application of Bruin. So you think we're headed down a good road, but au contraire. Okay, here's where it starts to get deep. Bottom of page 17. The Second Amendment is neither a regulatory straitjacket nor a regulatory blank check. From Bruin. Bruin does not displace the limiting examples provided in Heller. States remain free to enact prohibitions on the possession of firearms by felons and the mentally ill. That doesn't apply. 2. Laws forbidding the carrying of firearms in sensitive places such as schools and government buildings. That doesn't apply. 3. Laws imposing conditions and qualifications on the sale of commercial arms, or on the qualifications on the commercial sale of arms. And 4. Bans on weapons that are not in common use. Okay, we know where this is going. Under this framework, Naperville's ordinance and the Protect Illinois Communities Act are constitutionally sound. In the footnote number 8, she says, today the challenged law bans only the sale of assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, not their possession. Nonetheless, the court considers the state's general authority to regulate assault weapons because logically, if a state can prohibit the weapons altogether, it can also control their sales. And inversely, the right to own a weapon that can never be purchased would be meaningless. She contradicts herself. Yeah. Footnote 9, weapons associated with criminality may be unprotected, but given the strength of historical evidence regarding particularly dangerous weapons, there is no need to consider this alternative ground. There, they were ready to go back to interest balancing on its face. So she gets into citing Blackstone, which we've heard, and this is at the beginning where she bites on that first piece of bait the anti-gunners have thrown out there. Blackstone, who's writing the court, relied on and Heller drew a clear line between traditional arms for self-defense and dangerous weapons. He proclaimed, quote, the offense of riding or going armed with dangerous or unusual weapons is a crime against the public peace, with dangerous being italicized in the judge's writing. And if she started to go off the rails there, here she is, I'm trying to think of the word. She's channeling. Here, even though she declares Friedman dead letter law, she does her best to resurrect it like, Michael Myers in Friday the 13th. No, that's Jason. Sorry, Michael Myers was Halloween. But does her best to resurrect it like either Jason or Michael or even Freddy Krueger. A musket took at best half a minute to load a single shot. The user had to pour powder down the barrel, compress the charge, and drop or ram the ball onto the charge, and the accuracy of the weapon was poor. Nor did people keep guns loaded. The black powder used to fire a musket was corrosive and prone to attract moisture, which rendered it ineffective. That is also why guns hung over the fireplace mantel. It was the warmest and driest place in the home. This combination of limitations meant that guns were seldom the primary weapon of choice for those with evil intent. More interest balancing, more looking back to in contradicting Heller where, guns not in existence in the 18th century. So here's where she gloms on to another one of the anti-gunners' arguments, Bowie knives. In the early 19th century, the Bowie knife gained notoriety as a fighting knife after it was supposedly used in the Vidalia sandbar fight, a violent brawl that occurred in central Louisiana. Shortly afterwards, many Southerners began carrying the knife in public because it offered a better chance to stop an assailant than more cumbersome guns of the era, which were unreliable and inaccurate. You're talking about carrying a weapon. Nobody here is talking about carrying an AR-15 down the street. This is about whether or not they are allowed to be sold and or possessed, and the things that go with an AR-15. This is just, and she goes into this whole thing about how many states banned Bowie knives in the 1839 and that area prior to the 14th Amendment. She does a good job of picking a timeline in some of this stuff. Some of it she jumps the shark. But here, citing things that are pre-14th Amendment, and she bootstraps up carrying Bowie knives. But then dives into Georgia followed suit the same year, making it unlawful for any merchant to sell or offer to sell or keep a Bowie or any other kinds of knives. Citing that 38 states did so by explicitly naming the weapon, and 12 more states barred the category of knives encompassing them. So now we're debating knife laws from the 1800s. Well, that's their analogy. That's what they're trying to bootstrap up here and claim that's good enough. And if they're just trying to bootstrap up laws regulating melee weapons also targeted more than just the Bowie knife. As early guns provided unreliable, many citizens resorted to clubs and other blunt weapons. Popular instruments included the billy club, a heavy-handed club usually made of wood, plastic, or metal. The slingshot, a striking weapon that had a piece of metal or stone attached to a flexible strip or handle. States responded to the proliferation of these weapons. The colony of New York enacted the first anti-club law in 1664. Yeah, they're really reaching because there's nothing on guns and they're trying to make some sort of analogy. And here we've got a new that new phrase, particularly dangerous weapons. States continued to regulate particularly dangerous weapons from the 18th century through the 19th and early 20th centuries. All right, full stop. The time we are looking at is either 1791 or 1868. Not 1903, not 1994, none of that. But they do a good job of bootstrapping that up because here she says, 5 years before the Revolution and 3 decades before the ratification of the Second Amendment, New Jersey banned any loaded gun intended to go off, discharge itself, or discharge by string, rope, or other contrivance. This is a spring gun. These are trap guns. These are guns that are set as booby traps. And they're bootstrapping this up to say that that's akin to banning all muskets. That would be the relevant factor here. Oh, and people wonder why I drink. And so after doing that, bootstrapping up. So Rhode Island banned silencers in the 1900s. Notably, semi-automatic weapons themselves, which assault weapons fall under, were directly controlled in the early 20th century. Rhode Island prohibited manufacture, sale, purchase, possession of any weapon which shoots more than 12 shots semi-automatically without reloading. Michigan regulated guns that could fire more than 16 times without reloading. In total, 9 states passed semi-automatic regulations. We're looking at something that is 40, 50 years post the enactment of the 14th Amendment. You are well outside the timeline that the court would potentially allow based on their dicta. I mean, it certainly is 1791, and if you do what Judge Benitez says, we're going to give you 1868, but they are now well beyond that. She goes on here with ammunition. 23 states impose some limitation on ammunition magazine capacity, restricting the number of rounds from anywhere between 1, Massachusetts and Minnesota, to 18 in Ohio. Wow. You really want to stake your decision on a ban on single shot, that's all you can have. You can have 1, not 2. I mean, we've always made fun of the 10-round argument, but here we have a federal judge saying that, hey, 1 round is good enough. That's an outlier if I ever saw one. Holy bejesus. I might need another drink. Concealed carry laws were also replete with references to dangerous weapons. For 2 examples, in 1859, Ohio outlawed the carry of any other dangerous weapon. And 5 years later, California prohibited the carrying of any concealed, dangerous, or deadly weapon. I would call that void for vagueness today. Let's see, there was a law in 1917 with the same dangerous or deadly language. By the 1930s, most states had similar regulations on dangerous weapons. Stop! 1930. You are 30, 60 years past the 14th Amendment, and you're bringing that in? Oh, God, this judge deserves to be reversed. No wonder she was reversed in a Zell. She still hasn't learned anything. This is the liberals trying to bootstrap up whatever they can in an effort to just keep what they got. The history of firearm regulation then establishes that governments enjoy the ability to regulate highly dangerous arms and regulated dangerous accessories. The final question is whether assault weapons and large capacity magazines fall under this category. They do. Half of your historical analogs are outside the appropriate time frame. Period. Full stop. And we jump right back into interest balancing. Assault weapons pose an exceptional danger. Her typo, not my misreading. More so than standard self-defense weapons, such as handguns. When used, these weapons tend to result in more numerous wounds, more serious wounds, and more victims. More interest balancing. They quickly fire a shooter using a semi-automatic weapon that can launch 30 rounds in as little as 6 seconds with an effective rate of about a bullet per second for each minute of firing, meeting the U.S. Army definition for rapid fire. The bullets hit fast and penetrate deep into the body. The muzzle velocity of an assault weapon is 4 times higher than a high-powered semi-automatic firearm. Bull fucking shit. Lady, you don't know the first thing about ballistics, and you certainly don't understand that my 300 Win Mag has way more energy in it than a 5.56. I've taken down a black wildebeest at 425 yards with my 300 Win Mag. You will not do that with a 5.56. No frickin' way. So, additionally, the injury path along the path of a bullet of an AR-15 is vastly different from a low-velocity handgun injury. Lady, do you not understand what 357 Magnum is? Measured by injury per shooting, there's an average of 30 injuries per assault weapons compared to 7.7 injuries for semi-automatic handguns. Timeout. I'm just going to stop reading this paragraph because this is nothing more than interest balancing. That's all it is, interest balancing. Assault rifles can be easily converted to increase their lethality and mimic military-grade machine guns. Some of these fixes are as simple as stretching a rubber band from the trigger to the trigger guard. 2 conversion devices stick out, though: bump stocks and trigger cranks. Yeah, okay. More interest balancing. Let's see. As the Fourth Circuit summarized, the very features that qualify a firearm as a banned assault weapon, such as flash suppressors, barrel shrouds, folding and telescoping stocks, pistol grips, grenade launchers, night sights, and the ability to accept bayonets and large capacity magazines, serve specific combat function ends. Colby and Light of Bruin should be dead letter law, just as Friedman is. But you want to keep bootstrapping this stuff up. Moreover, assault weapons are used disproportionately in mass shootings, police killings, and gang activity. Again, we've got more interest balancing. There's this whole skew that goes on for interest. They're going to try to say that this is dangerous. No. You're just trying to use interest balancing and try to get interest balancing back in through the dangerous and unusual part that Heller is supposed to bind you to, which you are now changing to dangerous or unusually dangerous. And you are playing a game with all of this. And there's my second drink. High-capacity magazines share similar dangers. The numbers tell a familiar grim story. An 8-year study of mass shootings from 2009 to 2018. You are interest balancing all over again, even though you're going to try to claim that this is dangerous and unusual. Assault weapons and high-capacity magazine regulations are not unusual or severe. The federal government banned assault weapons for 10 years. Today, 8 states, the District of Columbia, and numerous municipalities ban, maintain assault weapons and high-capacity magazine bans as more jurisdictions weigh similar measures. Because assault weapons are particularly dangerous weapons and high-capacity magazines are particularly dangerous weapon accessories, their regulation accords with history and tradition. Oh, no, it doesn't. You have bootstrapped all that up in the worst way. Absolutely. You have just done that because you are definitely driving a square peg into a round hole. Naperville and Illinois lawfully exercised their authority to control their possession, transfer, sale, and manufacture by enacting a ban on commercial sales. That decision comports with the Second Amendment. As a result, the plaintiffs have not shown a likelihood of success on the merits necessary for relief. Are you flipping kidding me? Are you absolutely flipping kidding me? For thoroughness, the court addresses the remaining preliminary injunction factors. The party seeking a preliminary injunction must show, in addition, the likelihood of success on the merits. That absent an injunction, irreparable harm will ensue. The Supreme Court has held that the loss of the First Amendment freedom for even minimal periods of time unquestionably constitutes irreparable harm. No binding precedent, however, establishes that the deprivation of any constitutional right is presumed to cause irreparable harm. The judge was right to say that equitable relief depends on irreparable harm, even when constitutional rights are at stake. Ezel does not draw upon First Amendment principles. For example, the argument that Second Amendment harm is mitigated by the extent to which it can be exercised in another jurisdiction cannot pass muster because the city could never ban the exercise of free speech. No shit, lady. You're the one that originally ruled on Ezel, and that was the appellate court overturning you. The gall you've got to cite the appellate court that overturned your original ruling is just, you got way big huevos. Oh, the Second Amendment protects simply intangible, unqualified interest, but the Seventh Circuit stopped short of holding that the injury in the Second Amendment context unquestionably constitutes irreparable harm. They did not. They did not. They explicitly cited it along with the First Amendment when they overruled your dumbass. Absent this presumption, the plaintiffs have not demonstrated they will suffer irreparable harm. Beavis has not furnished any evidence that he will lose substantial sales, and he still can sell almost any other type of gun. So now we go back again to what Heller disfavored, and when the city of D.C. sat there and said that, well, they can choose other guns, and you go down this, and here where we jump to shark. Well, the high number of assault weapons are in circulation. Only 5% of firearms are assault weapons. 24 million out of an estimated 462 million firearms. This is more that bullshit percentage per capita numbers game about trying to refute the income and use. That's what they're doing here. That's what this is. Most law enforcement agencies design their firearm training qualification courses around close quarter shootings, those shootings that occur between a range of 3 to 10 yards, where handguns are most useful. That is not for you to decide. No. Assuming, though, that the deprivation of any constitutional right rises to per se irreparable harm, the plaintiffs have still not shown that they are likely to succeed on the merits. No, not when you drag all that other bullshit in there and you make this stuff up as you go along. throwing New York out the window to reinvigorate Friedman as if it's a zombie. 1-round limits are comparable? Are you, based on that, you would not let us have anything more than muskets or single shot carbines? That's it. That's the end of this. And then she balances equities of public interest. So that's it, boys and girls. We'll see how and when and if the plaintiffs in this case are going to take it up. It has a bad record. This decision underscores why this judge was overturned twice in a Zell. Even after getting the first part, it was a slap on the hand the first time, she didn't get it. This video is running close to 30 minutes. I'm just going to knock it off here. We may come back and revisit this again. She just, she said more interest balance again through the financial burden and loss of access to effective firearms would be minimal. On the other side, Illinois and Naperville compellingly argue their laws protect public safety by removing particularly dangerous weapons from circulation. She never really addressed a dangerous and unusual. No, they're bootstrapping and all this other stuff, and there is more interest balancing is alive and well in this decision. So with that, it looks like it's going to be one of those nights. But hey, this is just round one. I'm sure the state will be crowing about this Monday morning in the press. I'm sure they will be beating their chest. I'm sure all the anti-gunners will be putting press releases out about this. And this is why we need to take note of what they're citing. We need to be prepared for this, and we need to avoid those pitfalls that I talked about in my other video. But when you get stupid judges, there's nothing you can do about that. You just have to roll with it, but you have to build a record. There is no real record here. There's just a couple of briefs and a couple of oral arguments. There is no true record, which is not good for our side of it, since she bought the, this is another one, guys. It is too deep for the boot, save the watch kind of thing. So with that, as always, guys, like, subscribe, copy and paste the link, hit the notification bell, pass this around, let everybody see it. Lawyers in other states, take note. This is what's coming your way. You get to see the arguments. You get the answers to the test ahead of time. So with that, hey, guys, enjoy your Friday night. Frag out.